Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, Gittin Daf Yud Gimel. We are holding on Yud and Beis, 13 lines from the bottom of the Amud. Tanya, Amma, Rabbi Yehuda. Let's go back to the Mishnah for a second, where we learned if a person issues a get and gives it to somebody, please take it to my wife, or issues a get shichrur, a release document intended for his slave, and hands it to a fellow, asking him to deliver it to his eved. Can the husband, or in the case of the eved, the owner, retract, change his mind, cancel the mission before the document reaches its intended recipient? So it depends. If it's considered something which is a chayv, is to the detriment of the mekabel, then of course this shaliach cannot be zoiche, cannot acquire, cannot possess something for the intended recipient without asking him, without his consent. If he's losing from it, if it's a chayv, ein chaven la'adam ela b'fanav. You can only do that with his consent. But if it's a zechus, if it's all gain, then we know that you can be zeiche la'adam shaloi b'fanav. You can initiate shalichus and be zeiche something for the sake of a mekabel if it is to his benefit. Question: how do we treat a get isha? Is it a zechus? Is it a chayva? How do we treat a get shichrur of an eved? Is it a zechus to go out free, or is it a chayva? So the Mishnah tells us that when it comes to a get isha, it's certainly considered a chayva. She's losing her source of parnasa, her support, the mezainis that the husband owes her and committed to her. When it comes to the eved, we have a machlekes. Chachamim say it's a zechus, go out free. How can you have better than that? Becoming an independent person on his own is a zechus. And therefore, when the shaliach accepts the shtar for the eved, the owner cannot take it back. Ramir disagrees. Going out free has its downside as well. He loses some privileges, some rights, in which case it's considered a loss, and therefore it falls into the halacha of ein chaven la'adam ela b'fanav. You can only do it with his consent. Now, in the Brisa, we're going to have a presentation, a full presentation of the back and forth, the whole debate back and forth between the Chacham and Rab Meir, each one establishing his view, his shita, his opinion, as to whether it's a chayva, that's Rab Meir's shita, or is a chus according to the Rabbanan. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Lezer, Amar Nulei Meir. So Rabbi Lezer was a colleague, a contemporary of Rab Meir, so that's why he refers to him as Meir. We turn to Meir and presented our argument. Going out free is all gain. It's a zechus. What bigger zechus is there than becoming a free, independent person? Amar Lana, he responded, no, it's actually a loss for him. For instance, if he was a slave that belonged to a kohen, the Torah says just like a kohen can eat truma, his slave can have truma as well. So that's a right, that's a privilege that the eved has, and he'll be losing when he goes free. Setting him free disqualifies him from truma. And Taisus learns that the Chachamim figured, Chachamim upon hearing this argument figured, you know what Rameir meant? He meant that because the owner knows that he can feed him truma, which is pretty much a cheap commodity, so his master will be very generous in feeding him extra. There's another point, because there's a mitzvah to eat truma, so having truma consumed is a mitzvah, so perhaps he'll be over generous and feed his eved above and beyond the norm. So it's a privilege. It says chus. That's what Rameir was arguing. So to counter that argument, here come the Chachamim. We responded to him, to Rameir. parnasa, mezainos, food, support. That's not much of a permanent thing. There's no security in that. It's unpredictable. V'aloi, ma im yirtze shaloi l'zayna, shaloi l'parnasa. Rashai. Let's say the owner decides, I'm stopping to feed him. I'm stopping to support him. As we learned yesterday, you can do that. You make an arrangement with him. You keep your income. So it's a fleeting privilege. It's a fleeting right. So losing that isn't really giving up much. Amar Lanu. Well, Rameh responded to that. Uma ilu evet kohen shebarach. Okay, so suppose the support isn't really predictable, unreliable, and something to rely on. But picture this. Let's say the evet of the kohen escapes. Ve'ishes kohen shemarda al bala, or the isha of the kohen also walks away. So even though they're not being supported anymore, but they still have access to truma, they can walk over to truma and eat it. That's a pretty pronounced privilege. But this fellow today, who's being sent away, who's being released, is not going to have that privilege. He's losing that privilege. And the Rabbana responded, you know what? Granted, when it comes to Isha, we'll agree. Aval Isha chayvula shekain pasla min truma umafsida min amazonis. When it comes to an Isha, the get Isha is certainly a chayv. It certainly brings her a chayv. It's a loss. She loses truma rights. She loses mazonis. But when it comes to Eved, he doesn't really have much to lose because the Adin could just stop feeding him to begin with. Now, we have a bit difficulty understanding this back and forth. Because, let's just go back a second. The Rabbana told him, there isn't much loss because, in any case, the Adin is not committed to feeding the Eved. Rameh responds, well, the Eved has rights to access Truma, which he's going to lose now. How is that a response to the Chachamim's argument about the fact that his source of Parnasa is not reliable? Maika Amrulei, what is it that they told him that triggered his response? Umaika Mahadalahu. Hachikamarlahu. Rameh meant like this. Let's go step by step. Let's break it down. Hishavtuni al mazonos. Okay, you gave me a proper response regarding support. Meaning, the Eved lost? No, he didn't lose because he never had it. The Adin could just terminate his mazonos at any time. Okay, so it's not a loss. Matishivuni ala truma. What about truma rights? That's absolute. You can go to a field and eat truma, right? Perhaps you'll say, even truma is not assured to the Eved because the owner has an easy way to disqualify him. He can just take a get shichrur and throw it in his Eved's direction, and it lands next to him within 4 amis, upasile, and that's it. He goes free, whether he likes it or not, and there goes his truma rights. So, though truma privilege isn't really a bona fide absolute right, so losing it isn't really much of a loss. The response to that is, says Rameir, the response to that is, Shabakle, when he sees his master is getting upset, he just abandons him, runs away, va'arik, and runs away, vazlaman disappears to nowhere, he disappears. Which prevents his owner from setting him free, which enables the Eved to continue accessing Truma because he's still technically the Eved of a Kohen. And that's why the Brisa continued, Uma ilu Eved Kohen Shabarach. Picture an Eved who runs away. Ve'eshes Kohen Shamar Da'bayla, or the Ish of a Kohen who does the same. They can still continue accessing Truma because technically they're married to a Kohen, they're owned by a Kohen. Halo Echlan B'Truma. But this fellow, this Eved, who's being set free through the Shliach, Eino Echel, will lose his Truma privileges. That's a loss. That's a Chayv. Shapek Ramlu. So it would appear that Rameir's argument is pretty strong and solid. Going free is a chayv, it's a loss. Amar Rava. Hainu de kamahadri lib masnisen. Oh, to find the answer to that argument, you have to go back to the Mishnah. What does it say in the Mishnah, the last line of the Mishnah, Yud Aleph on days? Hipneishu kinyanai. Chacham respond with these 3 words. You know why the Eved has truma? Because he's owned, he's possessed by his owner. Which means to say, it's not a permanent right. It's very temporary. True, if the Eved takes off and the Adon can't find him, we'll have a hard time throwing a get shikhr in his direction. But there's another way out. He can just flip him to the next owner, who happens to be Yisrael. Maybe Yisrael won't want to invest too much in this Eved who's a rebellious Eved, who took off middle of the night, but maybe a couple of coins he'll give him for it. He'll invest a few pennies to maybe try to locate this Eved. The Ibo Yishakal Abo Zuzim Yisrael, because if the Kohen owner decides, he can just accept 4 coins from the next door neighbor Yisrael, or possibly and sell him off. This way he's now an Eved of Yisrael, no more Truma. Wherever the Eved happens to be. It could be here, it could be in Antarctica, it doesn't matter. He's no longer owned by a Kohen. He loses his Truma rights, and therefore, say the Rabbanan, his access to Truma in any case was really incidental, was just temporary, circumstantial. It wasn't an absolute right that he had, in which case going free isn't really a loss. Adrabah, just the opposite. Going free is the biggest privilege, the biggest chus for a person to be an independent person. Says the Gemara, Meir. Okay, let's go back to Rav Meir's argument. Loss of Truma is a chayv. Teinach Evet Kohen. That explains the Evet of a Kohen. Going free is a loss. Evet Yisrael Michael Amema. What if the Evet is owned by Yisrael? Why is that a chayv? What is he losing there? Amar Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak. He's losing something. Remember, an Evet Kanani can interact with a Shifcha Kananis. He's losing that access when he goes free. Adarabah is the opposite. He's gaining much more than he's losing. Going free enables him to marry a regular Bas Yisrael, which is great. Still, he prefers his old lifestyle, the way an Evet likes to live, and that's a loss if he has to give it up. He likes a free, unrestricted life with the Shifcha Knan Zigale. She cooperates with him. Shichale, she's available to him. Pritzale, she acts with immodesty and preaches with him. And bottom line, that's what he prefers. The Eved is an Eved, and therefore losing that status is considered a chayv. So bottom line, Gerushin for Isha is certainly a chayv. She's losing her steady source of income, which her husband is committed to. Whereas by the Evet, although he's not really losing income because, as we said, the Adon can always just write him off, take your income for yourself. But still, according to Rav Meir, he loses Truma access. Or in the case of an Evet Kohen, an Evet Yisrael, the Shivcha, Rabbanan disagree. Going free is a greater schus. It overrides all these insignificant perks. Relatively insignificant perks. Or in the case of the Truma, they say, look, he can just flip him to a Yisrael. In any case, he's not going to have that. So, bottom line, leaving the status of Avdus and becoming a Ben Chern, the greatest thing that can happen to him, it's a schus. Continues the Mishnah. He takes a get and he says, look, hand this get to my wife. Shtar, shichrur zela avdi, give this shtar shichrur to my Eved, umeis, and he passed away before it was delivered. Lo yitnu lachar misa, they can't be delivered afterwards because he no longer has that ability to be megarish, to be meshachrer. But if it's financial, tunu mana leish pleni umeis, give this mana, this amount of money to a certain person, and then he passed away before it was delivered. Yitnu lachar misa, delivered afterwards because there's halacha, we listen to a mace, we fulfill his wishes, and we give it over. Omar Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta Mishmei Rav. He's quoting Rav. When do we hand the money over to the intended recipient? Who provided sheseburin umunachan b'karazavos, that the money is sort of piled up in the corner. We identify the money that he wanted to give over, and he actually pointed to that money. Look, this is the money I want you to give to him. Only then do we say it will be delivered even after his death. But otherwise not. Asks the Gemara, what's the difference? What exactly are we speaking about? That the one gifting the gift is a healthy person at the time. So even if it's sitting there in the corner and easily identified, it's specific money that he's giving away, who cares? There was no masa meshicha. Meshicha means pulling it, doing a kinyan. Nothing like that took place. It was just a promise. Just words. Words don't mean anything. Why do we give it to the Makabel? Give it to the Yarshim. Okay, so it must be we're speaking about a person on his deathbed. In which case, the Chachamim tell us we have to fulfill his wishes. We don't want him to get, all anxious and confused. So we take his word as fact. It's as though it was recorded in a document, and it carries all weight. So then the question is, my iri tzibur, why does it have to be specific money? Even if it's not specific, it's not piled up, it's unknown monies. He said, give the person a money. We should fulfill his wishes. We know as a fact, we have a halacha, the divrei shchibra, the words of a shchibra, are gold to us. It's as though it was recorded and handed over. As though it was recorded in a document and a kinyan was made and handed over to the recipient. Basically, we always amakayim his words. So why does Rav specify that it was specific money? Otherwise, we wouldn't carry out his wishes. Amar Rav Zvid. So we have two terutzim, Rav Zvid and Rav Papa. Amar Rav Zvid. Lo'elam bebar. We're speaking about a healthy person at the time. So how does this matana work? Ukedarav Huna Amarav. The reason why we hand the money over to the Mekabel, it's based on a halacha that Rav taught us. Damar Huna Amarav. Mani libiyadcha. Reuven tells Shimon, remember, I deposited a money with you, right? So you're holding on to a money for me. You know what? Don't give it back to me. Instead of returning it to me, I have another person I want to give it to. Taneu loyla pleni. Give it to that person. Okay? So Reuven tells Shimon, hand the money over to Levi. So if it took place by Ma'amat Shloshtan, if this instruction was instructed in the presence of all three, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, kana. It works. The Makabel has a right to get the money, even though nothing was yet handed over, nothing changed hands. It's a firm commitment which endows Levi with the rights to receive this money. A special halacha, and the reason for this we're going to see later. That's exactly what happened now in Mishnah. He was a bari, a perfectly healthy person. And he asked his friend, please hand over my money to the other fellow. It was b'mamat shloshtan, all three were standing there, and therefore it's committed. It's committal. Rav Papa Amar, la'olam b'shchibra. He has another pshat in the Mishnah. We're speaking about a person who was deathly ill. And he instructed them to transfer some money over to that person. And he passed away. And we go ahead and we deliver it. So Rav tells us, it only applies to specific money. Why? Rav. This is consistent with another halacha that Rav tells us. Damar Rav, shchibra, even a shchibra. She'amar tnuman lepleni, minachasa. He instructed people to deliver a certain amount of money to a certain person. Mon is if he specifies, this $100 bill, yeah, nice, and then we complete his instructions. Mon is stam, but if it's just random, give $100 of my monies, nice, then we don't do it. You know why? Chayshina were concerned. Shema Mana cover ka'amar. Maybe he had some money hidden, buried somewhere. And that's what he meant. He was referring to that money. Until we figure things out, we don't hand over any money. And that's why Rav tells us in now Mishnah. The only reason why we listen to the Shchibra is because he was pointing to specific money. This money. Then we know. He certainly meant this, and we hand it over. Says the Gemara, Lamaisa v'ilchasa l'kvur l'chashina, and we don't concern ourselves with hidden monies. Any Shchibra that speaks about any money, we listen and we deliver it. But bottom line is, we have two ways to explain our Mishnah. The last line in our Mishnah, Tzenu mana l'ishplenu meis yitn lachar misa. Why? Either we're speaking about a bari, a healthy person, and he employed the system called ma'amat shloshtan, or we're going with a shchibara, and Rav Papa says, well, it only works when we have specific money on hand. Rav Papa, my time Rav Zvid. Why didn't Rav Papa like the first pshat of Rav Zvid, that it was a healthy person handing over the money with the ma'amat shloshtan procedure? You know why? Because Rav Papa felt ki amar Rav. that this halacha that Rav tells us that Ma'amad Shloshtam works. Lo yishna b'muva, lo yishna b'pekadni. You know what? It works whether I'm instructing my borrower to repay my friend, in which case the money is no longer here. It's not be'en, it's not tangible, it's not here. The person borrowed my money, he already spent the money, it's his money. I could still ask him to repay that third party. Or whether it's a nifkat, somebody who I deposited money with, in which case he actually has that money to hand to my friend. So if in fact Rav applies this halacha of ma'amad shloshtam to milva as well, clearly you don't have to have the money here, or tangible, or specific. I can sort of transfer my rights. I can say, look, Shimon, you borrowed money from me, transfer that shibud, that commitment to my friend Levi. You can do that. Even though you're not actually speaking about actual money, or an actual item. It works. And therefore, says Rav Papa, I didn't want to apply the halacha of ma'amad shloshtam to our Mishnah. Because Rav had explained, it only works when there is money right here. Well, for ma'amad shloshtam, you don't have to have money right here. I can transfer my rights to Levi. And therefore, Rav Papa opted out. He didn't like that pshat in the Mishnah. Rather, he took a different approach. We're speaking about a shchibra. And according to Rav Papa, we only listen to the shchibra when he's pointing to specific monies. Otherwise, you never know. Maybe he's referring to something unknown. So that explains why Rav Papa opted to adopt his approach and not Rav Zvid's approach. Rav Zvid, my time, Rav Papa. Why didn't Rav Zvid go to Rav Papa's approach? He says, we cannot explain our Mishnah to be speaking about a shchibra. That he was promising his money and giving it away when he was a shchibra. How do we know that it's not a shchibra? Midiktani. Look at the lashon of the Mishnah. Right, when he asked him to deliver the document and he passed away, too late. Late in Lachamisa, you can't do it after death. Let's make a diuk. Tama de mes. It only stops working because he passed away. But suppose he's still alive. Nice, now we carry out his instructions, right? We give over the shtar and the get. But that's only because he said tnu. It's the lashon of the Mishnah. Tama de tnu. It's only because he instructed with using this specific word tnu. He was very specific, very expressive. Take this shtar and give it. But otherwise, let's say he would just, tell him, write a get for my wife, without actually adding the word tnu, deliver it. He would stop short from saying tnu. In that case, you can't deliver it. That's what it sounds like from the Mishnah. Well, guess what? If he was really a shchibra, you never know. Perhaps he was just short on words. He didn't express himself properly, and we treat it as though he asked specifically to deliver it. Or shchibra, by a shchibra, the halach is even if he didn't explicitly say the word tnu, we still deliver it. We attribute it to his, lack of focus. This now we have a Mishnah, the Rishonim initially, they would say, a person is being taken away in chains. Lihareg Rashi get killed. V'amar, and he says, please quickly write a get for my wife. And he left out the word tnu. He didn't speak about delivery. We deliver it. That's what he meant. You write and deliver it. The Chacham added more cases. Same thing when a person's embarking on a ship journey, or leaving with a caravan. He's in a rush. He's harried. We write it and we deliver it. Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, even a person who is in a precarious state of health, like a shchibra, we elaborate on his words. We stretch his words. Kisru means write and give. So why do we say in the Mishnah that we only deliver it because he said tnu? If we're speaking about a shchibra, it's unnecessary. Therefore says, Razvid, apparently the Mishnah is not speaking about a shchibra. Maskal Rav Ashi, Rashi responds to that raya. Who's going to tell us the Masis Rav Shimon Shazuri that our Mishnah is following Rav Shimon Shazuri's chidush that even by a mesukah and a shchibra we do the same thing. Dilma Rabbanon, maybe the Mishnah is following Shidduch Rabbanon. They didn't add shchibra to the list of short-handed people. So perhaps the Mishnah is speaking about a shchibura, and still, unless he says tnu, we don't listen to it. Okay, so bottom line is, we have two parts to the Mishnah. Part A, tnu gets el ishti, shtar shichur el avdi, and he passed away before it was delivered. It's over. You can't deliver it. But tnu monalish pliny umeis, then we deliver it. And Rav says, we're speaking about specific monies that he pointed to when he made those instructions. Why? We have two pshatim. We're speaking about a bori, and it was b'mamad shloshtam, that he asked the person who had his money as deposit to please deliver it to the other person. And everybody was standing there, all three. That's committal. That makes like a kinyan. Our Papa says, and he instructed to give him atana, to give his nechasim, unless we know where it is, unless he pointed to specific monies. You never know, maybe he meant to something unknown, referring to some hidden monies. So only when it's right here and you know what he's talking about, then we carry it out. Gufa, let's go back to that halacha called Mamad Shloshtim. Amar Rav Huna Rav. Mana li biyadcha. You know, there's money that you have for me, right? Please hand it over to my good friend Levi. Tnei lo leploni. So if it's b'mamad shloshtan, the presence of all three, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, kana, then it works. Amar Rav mistavra, it's probable. Milsei the Rav b'pekadon. This halacha of Rav only applies to a pekadon, to a deposit. So you're holding on to something for me. It's there, it's tangible. Instead of giving it back to me, give it to that person. So it works. Aval b'milvalai. But if it's money that you owe me, it isn't something be'en, it isn't something here, it isn't something tangible. I can't just transfer something intangible to the Levi. Avamilvalai. Says the Gemara. Rava continues. Velakim. In the name of Hashem, Allah Shana Shvua. The truth is that Rav really applied this to a milva as well. Amar Rav, afilu b'milva. You can transfer that right as well. Look, there's money that I have, but you owe me money. How does this work? The milva is not here. The money's gone, it's spent. How can you transfer that to the recipient? How does this work? Amar Meimer. You know how it works? Nasa ka'amrlai. The Chachamim were mesakin, that we treat it as though the borrower acknowledged, told, committed to his creditor, b'shas matan mois, when the money was given over to him as a loan, shabad nalach, you know what, I'm committed to you, l'didach to you, u'lechol, and likewise to anybody, the asu machmasmach, who comes on your account. Basically, I'm committing to anybody, either yourself or anybody that replaces you. So the initial commitment was to Levi as well, because now Reuven wants it to be given to Levi. Okay, it sounds good, but you're going to have limitations. Let's say somebody wasn't around, he wasn't born yet when that initial loan was taken out, when that commitment was made. If that's the case, let's say the creditor, the Baal Chayv, wants the Levi to give it to a person, to Levi, who is barely 2 years old. When the loan was taken out 5 years ago, he wasn't there when the money was handed over to Shimon, when that commitment was made. If that's the case, these people won't be able to get the kinyan, won't be able to be zeich in this money. Is that case? Is that true? Because even a mayor, the Amar who says, Oda makna, mayor holds that a person can commit to give, to sell, even something which is not yet here. I can sell the fruit of my palm tree before the fruit even grew. I can do that. It's a personal commitment. I'm selling you any fruit that will come my way. You can do that. But even that has limitations. You need a recipient here. It only works with davar sheyesh ba'olam. You can commit to something that's here. I'm here, you're here. Fruit's not here. Okay. I'm committing to you that fruit will be yours. But I can't commit to something that's not here yet. So when I borrow this money and that intended recipient, that future intended recipient is not yet born, I'm not committed to him. So this system is not going to address this type of case. Ella, we have to look for a new explanation that will be all-encompassing and address all scenarios. Elam Ravash. You know how Ma'amad Shloshtan works? No. In exchange for that benefit, for that gain, the Kamishtanile, Be'milvach Ishana, Le'milvach Chadash. You see, Reuben lent Shimon $100 a year ago. Comes payday, Reuben tells Shimon, you know what? Instead of to me, give it to Levi. So it sort of refreshes the term, because Levi's a newcomer on the scene. He's not going to come and bother Shimon the next day. He's going to give him some leeway, some slack, give him some time to pay the money. It turns into a milva chadasha, to a fresh, new, recent loan. And that gives Shimon a little more time to breathe. So that gives him an ahana. He's willing to undertake this change of venue in exchange for this benefit. But because of the ahana that it gets switched, from an old expired term loan to a fresh new loan. That's why Shimon commits himself. I'm going to give it to Levi. It sounds good, but again, you're limiting yourself. If that's the reason, suppose I find you a case where this doesn't apply. Kigai, for instance, Hani de Bey Baral Yashiv. We had this very fearsome family, Baral Yashiv family. The Kafsi, they tie their creditors, they tie them up, Shakl out, they force them to pay right away. Right? They take their money on the spot. There's not much gain in this case. So, if that's the case, they're not going to be kind with Trumam and Shloshtem, because the Leiva is not gaining anything by doing this transfer. He's going to handle the next morning. So you'll tell me, okay, maybe that's true. If that's the case, you're being selective in your application of the halacha. That's not the way the chacham make the halachas. Basically, it's going to be individual. Every case will have to be evaluated on its own. It's not the way of the chacham. Makes things too complicated. I'll give you the straightforward answer to your question. You know how the system works? It's a takanas chachamim. Don't ask any questions. Perhaps based on hefker, best and hefker, chachamim decided this is the way to do it. It's a firm commitment. It makes sense. This is the way to run business. Hanit lasmil. In fact, this isn't the only halacha. There are 3 halachas which are sort of unusual halachas. Shavin Rabban consider them kilchas l'leitam, like a halacha without a reason, like a halacha from Sinai. Forget about the reason. This is the way it is. Chachamim b'chachmasam established these takanis. Chada, one is this halacha, the Ma'amad Shloshtan halacha, even though we don't really have a proper, mechanism to explain it. V'idach, another halacha, Damar Vidam Shmuel, hakoysev kol nechasav li'ishtay. So this fellow writes away all his properties to his wife, and he passes away. He says, I'll give you everything away upon my passing, and he passes away. We don't take it literally. Chachamim assume he wasn't really trying to give it away to her and bypass his Yerushim. He meant that she should become a manager. That's what he meant, to give her prominence, to give her that position, run the show. But the owner, the kids are the owners. V'idach, another halacha, Damar Chananya, Hamesi Ishal of Negadol. So they used to marry off their child in this home, in this room, which was considered like the place of, that's where they married, that's where they had their chuppah. And the halacha is, if you marry off your oldest son in this bias that you were miyachet, that you specified, you designated for the chasana, for the chuppah, the assumption is you're giving it away to him, and he could stay on living there. Okay, let's just summarize. Is the get to the Isha a schus? No, it's a chayva. What about the shichra to the Eved? Chacham says it's a schus. Rameir says it's a chayva. He's losing some privileges. Sending off a shtar or a get and then passing away terminates the process. It can't be done lachar misa. But giving away nechasim, we follow through even lachar misa. We have 2 ways to explain. Either we're speaking about a bari through Ma'amad Shloshtan, or shchivara, who instructed to do this nesina, and therefore we listen, because divrei shchivra Kiksuvin Kimsurin Dami. How does Mamar Shloshtam work? We had a couple of attempts. This, that, the other didn't work. Maskana was, it's a Takanas Chachamim, because when all three parties are standing here, it's a firm commitment, and it is committal. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.